Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And once again, welcome on Youth Matters. This is your host, Sakina Habib. Now, some of us, sometimes feel that in certain relationships where sometimes we feel like we call it good parenting or being in a good relationship, we see a lot of unhealed trauma wearing discipline's mask, and we repeat what hurt us, call it normal, right? And pass it down. But awareness changes everything. For example, if someone is, shouting at you to correct you, it might seem like it's normal. And they say that that's the only way to, for example, discipline you or keep you, in a certain boundary. But actually, sometimes yelling often, reflects your own childhood wounds of not being heard, and it creates fear and not respect. And apart from that as well, there are so many other examples where we want to keep someone in control, for example, so we don't let them express their feelings. And if they do or say a word, then we say that they're sometimes disrespecting us. So these are some common things which fall under the category of emotional abuse. And now emotional abuse, of course, has different genres to it. And of course, it's in how a narcissistic person or a sociopath would treat you, which may give you these signs or symptoms that you're being controlled by them, to act in a certain way, to talk in a certain way, to behave in a certain way. And sometimes you really just don't realize how much you yourself as a person are being suppressed within yourself, and are causing so much damage to your own soul. So, without much further ado, I would like to welcome our guest, Sister Alia Jamal, on board today, who will be sharing and talking about emotional abuse. And she will be also reflecting it from a book that she's read. And I was, going through it on her profile as well, which I found very interesting. That how this book, talks about what are the certain symptoms of a sociopath, or the way they behave or treat you. So I would like to, without much further ado, I would like to welcome Sister Alia on board with us. Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Alia? Hope you're well.
Walaikum assalam, Sakina. Thank you so much for having me here. I'm doing wonderful.
Great, fantastic. Once again, it's an honor to have you, Alia. So, Alia, let's move on quick into our discussion. Tell us that, when someone is going through emotional abuse, how can I recognize these hidden signs of emotional abuse? And from your perspective, what is emotional abuse? Is it a certain type which is specified, or are there many categories to it?
So, emotional abuse, in my experience, because this is the work I do, it's that hidden trauma that we are not even aware of. For example, if someone has experienced, like, physical abuse, we know that's trauma. If someone has been in a horrific car accident, we're like, you're traumatized by it, you might have PTSD from it. Emotional abuse is when someone is just chipping away at you and you don't even realize. And the book that we were talking about, that focuses mostly on the in a partnership, but emotional
Yeah.
abuse exists between a parent and a child. It could be from the child to the parent. It could be among siblings. It could be in any relationship where the other person is just taking a little bit away from you because they're
Okay.
either judging you all the time, they're criticizing you all the time, um, and the person over time starts thinking they're nobody. And when they
Mm.
start to think they are nobody and they don't even matter, they don't trust themselves, they think they are not enough. I think trust is the biggest problem that a person who's going through emotional abuse, they cannot even trust themselves anymore to make decisions. So those are the
Yeah.
signs where a person knows that there's something within me that I want to work through.
I see. I see. So this is the book that you are talking about, right? It's shown on the
Yeah.
screen. Psychopath Free. Yeah. And it's written by Jackson Mackenzie. So I can see that it's talking about how one can recover from emotionally abusive relationships with narcissists, sociopaths, and other toxic people. So, what I want to know is that it down there it says, "Do you know a psychopath? Take the test inside." What did this test have inside? Can you just share with us a bit?
Yeah, so at the end of the book, there's some personality tests. And before we go further, I just want to start with this. Every single one of us has an element of psychopath within us. If you
Okay.
exist in today's world and you're interacting with other human, we try
Yeah.
to control and manipulate each other all the time. So I'm not going to say that I'm not a psychopath and someone else is. No, I have that tendency within me too. Maybe mine would be
Yeah.
10% and someone I'm dealing with has like 60%. So at the
Mm.
end of the book, you go through the series of question and you will be able to see the person you're dealing with, whether they are cluster B disorder, whether they are narcissist, whether they are antisocial. You might have
Mm-hmm.
seen it like, a friend got married and then she's nowhere to be found. Like she's not in any social
Yeah.
gathering, she's not anywhere. They just disappear because that is one of the tactic of a psychopath. They like to isolate the target, and that is when they
Mm-hmm.
slowly try to chip away at them. So when a person disappears
Okay.
from your circle, always reach out to them, check on them. Don't assume that they don't want to be your friend anymore. Don't assume that, oh, maybe now they're married, they think they're better than you, or whatever we tell ourselves. If a
Yeah.
person disappear from our circle, reach out to them. It's very possible that they are in an emotionally abusive relationship and they are drowning and they don't even know how to get out of it and they can't even see it.
Yeah, that's pretty sad. It's true. So many women within our communities, sometimes, as you said, they just disappear, especially after getting married. And we really don't know what's the actual story behind it. Like, it could be that they're going through some pressure, some trauma, maybe they're adjusting or transitioning to a new married life at times. And, they can't address these issues. There's nobody to talk to them or try to understand them. So, yeah, these are some things. I was going through this amazing post that made me realize that sometimes even like our own parents, okay, they don't realize when they were emotionally immature, and I guess that's where certain toxic relationships actually begin for some people, for certain people in their life. So they were not, for example, not just being strict, but they were emotionally immature. So, for example, they didn't model emotional regulation. Uh, you didn't learn to stay calm in conflict because they never did. So you watched them yelling, slamming doors, treating you with that silent treatments. And then sometimes you were told that you're too sensitive, for example. So even like at school and colleges, when we were like sometimes bullied by our own teachers and by our own friends, and they would mistreat you or just tell you not to express your views too much because it's culturally like not allowed and stuff like that. So I feel like these kind of things are also come under emotional abuse. And then I remember there are a lot of scenarios even that exist to up till today in our Indo-Pak cultures a lot, where if you're upset and if you try to address it on the table with your family members or to your colleagues and friends, and sometimes they call it talking back, and if you cried, they said, just go to your room or I will give you something to cry about. So they only accepted your emotions when like it was convenient for them, right? So what is your view about this, Alia? And also, um, the question that I want to pose is that, does emotional abuse differ from other types of abuse?
So, first, to address what you were talking about, this is a human issue. It's not just an Indo-Pak issue. I work with clients globally. I have worked with pretty much every single culture you can think of. And we all have this issue. Parents who just don't know how to handle emotion because they never expressed or connected with their emotions. And that is one of the most difficult skill to build as a human, because it requires us seeing on our true self. And most of us, we rather look at our fake self than our true self and face that. So this is an issue that exists. That's why it's our job, like it's my job, it's your job to end that circle of generational emotional abuse that gets passed down. So whoever is watching, it's your job to do the work on yourself, where you're not being controlled and manipulated by other people, and you're not controlling and manipulating other people either. And that is, it's very deep work. It takes way more than just going for therapy. um, Now, how emotional abuse differ from other abuse? Emotional abuse is invisible. You won't be able, like, you can't really see it. If you would talk to me, let's say, I will say, like, 15 years ago, um, or 14 years ago, I'll say, like, oh, everything is wonderful, like it's amazing. If you would
I
have
agree
talked
with
to me
you.
15 years ago, still I would say, like, 10 years ago, it was 2015 when my journey started, I'll still say, oh, it's not that bad, because I couldn't even recognize I was in an abusive relationship,
Right.
because somehow I was convinced that it's not that bad. So if you would
Mm,
ask me, are you in an abusive relationship? I'll say, no, I'm not. Everything is fine. There's love, there's care, there's kindness, because our mind literally becomes a mush, like mashed potato, when we
yeah.
are going through prolonged emotional abuse. And if, let's say, a person experienced that with their parents, now they're with a partner who's like that, for them, it's normal. So they won't
I
even
see.
see it. But where it shows up, so I'll talk just about women. It exists in every single person, both men and women. But you will see a woman highly successful,
Hmm.
but deep down, she has very low self esteem and she has very low self confidence. But she
Me too.
projects as if she has very high self esteem and very high confidence, but she knows it's fake. And she
Okay.
might be talking to her therapist, it's fake. That is one of the sign that, this person has been through many years of emotional abuse. Otherwise, there's
Mm,
nothing else that chips away at our confidence or our self image or our self esteem. But
I
emotional
see.
abuse is that, invisible, I will say, bug that eats away at you.
Yeah. So, what do you think? Over the years, do you become stronger? As you said, learning back, looking back into your years, into your life, what you went through. So, do you come out as a stronger version of yourself because now you figured out that you were in that emotionally abusive relationship all this while? And also, can you address that? How can I know if I'm in an emotionally abusive relationship?
So the first thing is, it depends if the person wants to do the work. When we are coming out of any kind of emotional, whether it's physical abuse, it's emotional abuse, or any other trauma that we have experienced, it really depends if we want to do the work. A lot of people, they rather just get busy and go back to school and do, like, other stuff. A lot of people, they just get busy with travel, they're just traveling all the time instead of doing the deep inner work. It requires coming face to face that right now I hate myself and I want
Mm,
to change that. And if a person is ready to change, it is going to take help of a professional. This is not something we can do on our own with just a book and, a couple of courses. And it is going to take time. I can
right.
tell you the journey I have been on. I became so dedicated to, I want to discover who I am if I am none of these characteristics that I see. Like, if, let's say, if I am not a low confidence person, if I'm not, like, with poor self image, then who am I? So I went on a very deep trajectory, and I still am on it. Healing is a
Mm,
forever journey, but the more I can see the lies that I believe in, because I am learning the truths about myself, who I am in my true essence, those lies have less hold on me. Even like, I've been separated for more than 5 years now. I've been remarried, but still there are some days like, one bug from the past comes and it just sticks with me. And then
Yeah,
I pause and then I remember this is not me, this is not true, and working through that. It does take time.
it
And I would
does.
say if
Absolutely.
I like, if you were in a relationship for 10 years, give yourself 10 years to heal from it. And
Mm,
if the emotional abuse is coming from your parents, and right now you're 40 or 50-year-old, I will say give yourself 40 or 50 years to work through that. This is not something,
that's a long
it's not
time.
a magic pill. We are going to take a magic pill and we are going to heal from it. It's actually a different way of living. We are used to
Mm,
live based on, what do you think about me? If you like
yeah.
me, then I'm good. If you don't like me, I'm not good. So when we do the healing work, we switch it. It's not about what you think of me, it's about what I think of myself. I'm going to start taking energy from myself, be self-sufficient. So when we go through the process of switching, for example, let's say if someone has been emotionally abused by their parents, instead of seeking their parents' validation, seek your own validation and give your
Yeah.
parents kindness and love. Like, we're supposed to give energy to other people, not take from other. When we seek validation, we are taking energy from other people. When we
Okay.
want someone to like us, when we want someone to accept us, we are taking energy from them. And that is where the problem
Mm,
starts. So we go through a
right.
process that we switch the table, and now I become the person who gives myself the energy. And when it comes to other people, I give them energy from a place of being full. So we learn how to fill ourselves up, which of course it's changing how you've been existing for all this time, changing how you operate your internal operating system. And then when we are in a difficult moment, we go back into our usual way of being and then coming out of that. Now, to see how one can tell if they are in an emotionally abusive situation, pay attention to the way the other person talks to you. Are they are they trying to belittle you? Are they trying to tell you, sometimes friends in jokes, they are telling you how ugly you look, but they're just kidding. They're not serious. That is emotional abuse.
Oh,
And
I see.
sometimes it happens between spouse.
Yeah.
They will just call you fat and then they'll say, oh, that I was just joking, like I'm not serious. That is
Yeah.
emotional abuse. A
True.
person is putting something inside of you that's not true of you. They cannot see the light that you are, and they are sharing a piece of darkness with you by labeling it, this is you.
Hmm. Agree. Yeah.
And if we become, like, honest, you will find emotional abuse in pretty much every single relationship, because most of us, we are not aware. We just
Yeah.
operate. We don't realize how powerful our words are and how damaging they can be for another person, even when we are joking around.
Very true. I agree with you on this point. It's true. Sometimes when we just like candidly, joke around, but it sticks to some people's hearts like forever. And I've noticed that, especially with men, right? They tend to remember it. Like they might just act very calm at that moment, but there's a certain, like maybe after even months or years, if ever that topic comes up, then they would remember it and you'd be surprised like how did you remember that? I wasn't expecting that, right?
Yeah.
So yes, very true, we have to be very careful with our words. What about people who sometimes are sarcastic, like some people are naturally sarcastic, right? So do they sometimes realize that this thing can necessarily offend or affect the other person's feelings, and that they should try to control their tone?
Yeah. So when a person is being sarcastic before they are sarcastic with another person, that's what they do to themselves. So, however I treat myself inside of me, that's how I'm going to treat you as well. So, if a person is treating us poorly, it shows that is how they treat themselves, and they are not going to treat me any better unless they start treating themselves better. Like for example, sometime in a partnership, let's say the husband says certain things to wife and she's learning to create boundaries, and she's like, don't talk to me like that. He comes back again, talks the same way, and then again she's like, why are you still talking? So many fights happen between husband and wife because of that. He cannot really treat you any different than how he treats himself, because the way we treat ourselves is silent, it's invisible. No one can see how you talk to yourself in your mind, but when we talk to other people, it shows. So I would say, like, before you can complain to that person, hey, you need to change your tone of voice with me, take a moment and empathize with how poorly they treat themselves. Not everything is about ourselves. Sometimes it's about how bad that person treats themselves. For example, um, you have kids, I have kids too. So let's say there's a 3-year-old. A 3-year-old does not know how to maybe take out a gallon of milk from the fridge and bring it to you and pour it in the glass. Like, they're going to spill. When I expect a 3-year-old to do it, I am going to be disappointed. So we know that, and we don't expect that from a 3-year-old. If we start understanding people with that understanding, with that awareness, if this person is treating me poorly, they are not capable of treating other people kindly or in a healthy way. Now, I can make a decision how much time I want to spend in their presence. If it's a blood relationship, of course, we cannot cut them off. Maybe we can decrease our exposure. We can talk to them while they're in the midst of it. For example, with my son, he's going through those preteen years. So his tone changes. And instead of criticizing him, telling him how disrespectful it is, I just pause and I say, oh, your tone just shifted. First,
Yeah,
I
that's a nice
make him
view.
aware that his tone has shifted. So all of a sudden he's like, what I'm doing? So when we
Yeah.
start bringing that awareness, not from a place of judgment or not from a place of defending ourselves, because a person
Hmm.
attacks us because they attack themselves. So
Very
when
true.
we just start bringing that awareness, especially in the relationship where we cannot walk away from, we keep bringing that awareness, keep bringing that awareness. It's so beautiful when there's no judgment. The other person starts to respond. But what happens most
Yes.
of the time, we attack the other person back with judgment, and we say, I'm not going to be treated this way, be kind to me, or else. So then things become even more ugly.
Ugly. Yeah, very true. I liked how you gave this practical example of how you're dealing with your son because, obviously these are very natural instincts that, usually take place between teenagers and preteens. And sometimes you just like don't know how to guide them basically without hurting their feelings because they're in that very sensitive stage. And if you say anything to them, then they can, just backfire at you, right? So that's a good tip that you've shared with us. What about how can sorry, what long-term mental health effects are caused by emotional abuse? Like as a person, how much can you change? Because what I've even noticed is that a lot of people from our generation and I'm not sure about the Gen Z and the Gen Alpha more, but like millennials, for example, we've seen a lot of that. What do you say? Trauma of coming from parents, school teachers, and friends and colleagues and all of that. So now we're basically reparenting ourselves before we're parenting our own children. And of course our behavior has completely now changed. It's more like a reverse reaction. So if for example maybe my mother or my dad would have reacted to a certain situation in a certain way, I wouldn't repeat that cycle today with my child. it would be a lot more different, because I know how it felt like back then, so I don't want my child to feel that way today, right? So what is your view on this?
Like how it's impacting us, or what is your
Yeah, like
specific
how
question?
in the long term, like how has it impacted our mental health? How does it
Yeah.
impact our mental
So,
health? Yeah.
so I would say, like, when we are carrying stuff on our shoulder, it is going to impact our nervous system. So anxiety is the biggest one. Anxiety and depression. If a person is feeling very anxious, they're feeling very depressed, that means they've been carrying too much. They're carrying too many lies within them. And those lies were maybe told by the society, they were maybe told by the parent. So they need to learn who they truly are. And thank you so much for bringing up the topic, like, how our generation is a little bit more aware than our previous generation. And it is no coincidence. The generation that is being born through us and then is going to follow, they need different kind of parents. That's why we all of a sudden became aware, because they require different kind of parenting, because they are very different souls. Starting from 2000, like 20, especially after 2020, new energy age has started. Those souls are very, very different than me and you. They are from a much higher level, I will say, than we are. So that's why there's a whole movement going on globally. But one of the things that I see parents feel, parents our age, they feel like, oh my god, I'm parenting myself, I'm parenting my parents, there's so much I'm carrying, how I'm gonna do it. So even like such a blessing, which is awareness, we are making it so heavy on ourselves. So any parent watching us, no matter how good of a parent you are, no matter you say like, I have read all the books, I went for coaching, I went for therapy, I'm such a aware parent, you're still going to cause damage to your child. You're still going to cause trauma to your child. It's not going to be the kind of trauma you had, where maybe your parents were just, sending flying objects at you, but your kids are going to still experience trauma, because what trauma is, it's separation from our true essence. Our true essence is our soul. So I need to constantly remind myself, my son is a perfect soul. Don't try to change him, don't try to mold him, don't think I can control him, don't think I can show him the ropes. And as a parent, how hard it is to like not do any of that. It's very easy for us to like jump to rescue them, to try to save them. It is very easy. We are going to make those mistakes. For example, if you talk to my son, someone looks at my life, they'll be like, oh, you've been this amazing parent, I wish every kid can have a mom like you. Ask my son, he will say, she's okay, because he does have things that I have done, and they are not to his standard. So at some point,
Yeah,
he's going to
I agree
sit
with
down with someone and he's going to work through that. So if we move forward with this awareness, I think our nervous system would calm down a little bit. We will
yeah.
not feel so pressured that I need to be the person to heal this generational trauma. We can all just take a deep breath and realize that life is taking us all in a direction, and it will always guide us in the right path, but we are not going to be perfect. I see that in
Right.
like when someone like from our generation comes to me for coaching, that's the first thing I help them understand. Don't put so much pressure on yourself, because that is
Yeah,
what causes
true.
all the anxiety. So that was a very long
Very.
explanation to what you asked.
No, no, actually, you're very right, and I love the fact, how we can actually resonate to this. Like we're all parents right now. I think are sailing through the same boat, and yes, as you gave a very good example about your son as well. So even with my 5-year-old daughter, sometimes it's very difficult sometimes to understand her emotions, because if I do try to correct her in any way, she feels like I don't love her. And she actually tells me that she's like, you don't love me anymore. So I have to tell her that no, that's not the case. I'm just teaching you, and I just, think to myself, like, if it was my mom would never say these kind of words to me. She would just give me that one eye look and it would be like this factory reset, right? It would just reset me and I would understand I'm doing something wrong. So these are the
Yeah.
differences that we see today. So it's great, in fact, I love how we're parenting our kids today, in a very modern yet traditional way, in the sense that we've not forgotten our roots. We're doing it with a good moral, with a good character, and at the same time we're taking that legacy forward in a very subtle and a very educated way, a very self-awareness way, right? So in this situation, I feel like even our bonding is much much more stronger and better with our children. We are at the level of being more like their friends, rather than being those formal parents. We're more like friends to them, so even they get to share their emotions very easily with us, rather than hiding or suppressing them, right? So I feel this is very important for in order to become a good human being and adult, as they will mature and grow. Okay, Alia,
I wanted to
because of the
share,
short.
I just wanted to share
Yes, yes,
a quick
here,
point
here, the
because
last
I
one.
felt like we had a
Yeah.
conversation and then some parents might be just standing there on a cliffhanger. If you're
Yes,
thinking, how do I parent my child then, like, without feeling pressure? Look at your kid
yes,
as your teacher. What did this kid came into your life to teach you about yourself? If we can keep that point in front of us, it becomes so much easier. So as you're parenting your daughter, she's bringing more awareness within you about love and about emotion. So I'm pretty sure as she's growing, you're connecting more deeply with your emotions so you can guide her. So I think if we can just
yeah,
keep that in front of us, like what is this child is here to teach me, versus what can I
yeah.
teach this kid, that is a wonderful parenting tip, I'll say, to for today's parents.
Yeah, I agree. Very true. That's a wonderful tip. True, to connect with them on an emotional level, I feel is very important today. And yeah, I hope we make it through by doing the best parenting that we can, inshallah, hopefully. Is there any final message that you would like to share with our viewers? Because we're just about to wrap up today's program. I know because of the shortage of time and everything, we
Yeah.
had to go a bit fast on our conversation. So, yeah,
Sure. One of the thing I would like to say, there's so much awareness these days because we are in the time of knowledge. With AI,
yeah,
everything is available on our fingertips. It is very easy to start labeling ourselves and labeling other people. So one of the
right.
thing I would like to say, stay away from labels. I personally
Sure.
don't like to label people like, now you're narcissistic, you're this, you're that. I like to approach it more from like, this person is far away from their truth, and I stay
Mm,
focused on how far away from my true essence I am. Am I still
right.
controlling and manipulating, or going to the label so I can feel better about myself? Like some people, they discovered they have ADHD. Now that is the label they're going to carry. They're going to tell everybody,
Yeah,
I have this, so treat me different because I have this. Like that person got trapped by it. So stay away from
true.
labels and stay focused on yourself, because every single human we are going to meet in our whole lifetime experience, they have come from some kind of damaged background.
Right.
That gives us room to create more kindness for ourselves and for
Yeah.
other people, and staying away from labels, and keep working on ourselves, becoming a more authentic version of ourselves.
Very well said. Thank you so much, Alia, for joining me on today's program. So, in the beginning, I didn't introduce you properly. Alia is actually the love coach, and she's brilliantly handling her clients by taking them on their journey of finding their authentic selves, and of course, through her healing guide and everything. So, I'm very much grateful to you for joining me today, Alia, and for sharing those wonderful tips with us. Thank you so much once again.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. Such a wonderful conversation. Beautiful way to start my Monday.
Thank you so much. So, on a final note, I will just say that if you ever felt that your expressions or your emotions weren't being heard, or that you had to learn about love in a hard way, where we learned love was conditional, that peace meant walking on eggshells, or that respect was something you gave even when your body didn't feel safe. And it's only now as adults that we realize that it wasn't our job to carry the emotions of, these narcissistic people around you, whom you grew up with, for example, or whom you had to get married to. It wasn't our fault that if we didn't feel safe, or it wasn't love if it came with fear. So if you're starting to name it now, you're not overreacting. You're listening to the part of you that always knew something was off. And you're not breaking down, you're breaking free. And that's not disloyal, that's healing. So I would like to just request all our viewers to please keep sharing today's program as much as possible. And thank you for watching Youth Matters. This is your host, Sakina Habib, signing off. Jazakumullah khairan. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.